welcome you, Mr. Lee Miles, Chief Customer Success Officer at سايتكور at أولاً اقتصاد الأعمال website. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. First of all, Sitecore is a content management system and digital experience platform. And I would like to ask you first to tell us about Sitecore's main services and how does these services contribute in enhancing the quality of services provided by the companies that adopt your services?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Rania, and it's a pleasure to be with you. And I think, it's a great question you asked. We really do three key things. We manage content, we manage the digital experience, so the end user experience, and we also manage the commerce part of it. And I think, if you look right now, these are hugely in demand across many different industries. Not least the fact that there's both B2C and B2B, and especially now B2B companies where people are wanting to have a more B2C experience, but in a B2B world, and that's really where Sitecore has come into its fore in providing a high level of quality content, but also then a high degree of personalization, and then obviously the commercial and commerce aspects of it.
Okay, how we know that the pandemic has impacted the digital transformation, or has accelerated digital transformation. So how did the pandemic impact the demand for Sitecore services, and how much the sales did it grow in percentage points?
Ultimately, it's really just accelerated what was happening prior to the pandemic. So if you can consider that, all businesses were moving to a digital footprint of some description, the customer engagements that I've had in the last, 3 or 4 months have all been around how do we get to a full end-to-end multi-channel experience with our customers in a much more efficient and faster way. So, COVID-19 or the pandemic itself will be one of those moments that we look back on 3 or 5 years' time and say, this was the point when there was a real step change in how companies became more digital aware. And I think, that's really where, if you look at the demand on the businesses, Gartner itself is saying, but by 2023, 50% of all commerce capabilities will need to be SaaS services, and will need to be cloud-based services, and 100% of companies will need to be able to offer a commerce capability through a digital experience. So it's really, the pathway was already outlined. It's just really bringing that acceleration forward for us as an organization.
Okay, and did you witness a real increase in demand on your services?
Oh, very much so. With the recent announcements and the investment portfolios, you may well have read, in January, we announced a $1.2 billion investment, which is the largest singular investment in a MarTech company. So, that for us is multifaceted. So, it's brand awareness, it's geographical expansion, so it's people expansion and services within our own organization and our partner ecosystem. And ultimately then it's product innovation. So the demand was there for us as an organization to start the planning for that investment. The pandemic has just accelerated all of that investment for us. So we see customers, the demand is there, the demand in regions we haven't been present before, and that's ultimately why.
Where, for example, give me examples about regions that you haven't been tapped before and you are planning to tap now.
So both here, here in the Middle East, so Saudi Arabia and the UAE are two key markets for us, and we have presence here as Sitecore, and we'll extend that presence in Asia Pacific as well. Japan specifically, we are investing very heavily in our own people as well as our partner ecosystem to extend, our capabilities in the region, not just as a sales capacity, but also a delivery capability and a customer service and customer support capacity too.
Okay, do you think there is in the region, specifically in the MENA region, there is a shortage in talented people and the skills required for your industry?
Not in the slightest. We see fantastic opportunity here. You only have to look at some other vendors who invested maybe a little bit earlier and the successes that they're having across the region. We see the demand. We have to now fulfill that demand as an organization, and really try and capitalize on the opportunity. Customers in this region especially are wanting to make a bit of a step change or leap technologies. So we see a massive demand for cloud. We see a huge demand for the digital experience. Those are, jumping ahead perhaps of our Western European or North American companies, where we see a real desire, both in the kingdom and also here in the UAE to extend.
Okay. It's obvious also that the pandemic has affected the economies and therefore the liquidity and cash flow of the companies. Do you think that it impacted spending on such services, or demand on or spending on such services will be impacted due to the pandemic, or no, companies will continue investing in such services?
Yeah, I think it's about priorities. I think if you look at the demand and you look at where companies are having to be careful and have to be cautious about what investments they make, they have to make the investments in the right areas, and digital experience is one of those right areas. So we're seeing, although companies are talking to us about how they're reprioritizing, the digital experience is not being affected, so the demand continues to remain high, and we see that as a way for them to future-proof their business. If they can be more e-commerce and be more digitally aware and digitally savvy within their own organizations, actually their reach and less reliance on the face-to-face meeting, especially as a B2B company. Traditionally, that's very much been a face-to-face process, and of course now, that's impossible this year to date, but we hope later on in the year it won't be, but it will change the face of the way people do business forever. And that whole demand around digital experience is absolutely vital and key to that.
Okay. Also, the pandemic has accelerated e-commerce. How much demand has increased on the services you provide in this regard? And how do you evaluate the situation in the Gulf countries regarding e-commerce?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we've all seen that even in our own personal lives, we've become much more digital aware and much more, certainly from speaking in my experience, my family's experience, we're doing a lot more online and we're doing a lot more commerce online. And I think that's the same for businesses too. They're just looking at innovative ways to be able to fulfill their own businesses and work with their ecosystems and their suppliers and vendors. And, ultimately we're trying to provide that experience. So, the demand is extremely high. Our investment is going to match that so that we can provide, both delivery and customer success, capabilities within the region.
Okay, and what subsectors do you think that there is still large need for digitalization?
I mean, if you look at, where it's going extremely well. So you look at some of, we signed an agreement last year with DWA as an example, where they have a very good digital experience already, but they want to enhance that digital experience. So that's something that we will do with them. Mashrek Bank also the same. They wanted to transform their digital experience. So, we have quite a broad customer base across the different verticals. But the one we see extremely high demand is the government entities here, all wanting to be able to provide seamless digital services across multiple platforms, across multiple regions. And that's really where we see very high demand in the desire to become much more digitally aware.
What are Sitekor's new projects that are in the pipeline, or new agreements with new entities or companies?
So as I just mentioned, DWA is a very recent one for us, where enhancing their whole digital experience is a project that we're already engaged with. Kersner also, which is the owners of the Atlantis on the Palm, as an example, in the UAE. They're very much engaged with us, transforming their platform to a cloud platform. And as you may well have seen in the news, only in January we signed an agreement also with Microsoft to extend our capabilities through the cloud, across the region here in the Middle East.
Okay, and finally, what are the main challenges facing your industry in the region?
I think they're positive challenges, actually. I think, you know, we probably can't invest fast enough. I think one of the key things for us is skills in the market. We've got to be smart and efficient in, you know, getting the next generation of people ready for, you know, Sitecore technologies and capabilities, because we truly believe that the partners and the customers are going to be demanding more and more for us. So it's a positive challenge, and I think, you know, as I said earlier, this pandemic will be a really definitive moment in time for the whole digital transformation and commerce movement. And I think, you know, it's important that we reflect on this moment to make sure that we're ready for the challenges.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Lee Miles, for giving us this opportunity, and you are always welcome at أولاً اقتصاد والأعمال. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
My pleasure too.